The avocado should not exist. Not in the sense that it's unhealthy or overpriced, though many people have opinions on both. In the literal, biological sense, the avocado is an evolutionary anachronism, a fruit that evolved for a world that no longer exists, sustained by creatures that have been dead for 10,000 years. The avocado's seed is enormous. It accounts for roughly 20% of the fruit's total weight. It is far too large to be eaten and dispersed by any animal alive today. Too big for birds, too big for most mammals, indigestible even for those that could swallow it. The avocado, by the logic of natural selection, is a fruit without a purpose. Its seed cannot be spread. It should have gone extinct. It didn't. Because 10,000 years ago, in the highlands of what is now Mexico, humans found it. They ate the flesh, they planted the seeds. They cultivated trees on hillsides and in valleys, selecting for larger fruit and creamier flesh over generations. They saved the avocado from the extinction that the disappearance of its natural dispersers had made inevitable. The animals that used to eat avocados and spread their seeds across the landscape were the megafauna of the Pleistocene. Giant ground sloths the size of elephants, gomphotheres related to mastodons, glyptodonts like armored cars the size of Volkswagens. These animals ate the entire avocado, seed and all, and deposited the seeds miles from the parent tree in their droppings. When they went extinct, likely through a combination of climate change and human hunting, the avocado's dispersal mechanism disappeared with them. The avocado survived only because one of the animals responsible for driving its dispersers to extinction also happened to find it delicious. That is the first irony. There are many more. Today, the avocado is a $90 billion global industry. It is the defining food of millennial brunch culture, the subject of economic think pieces about housing affordability, the cause of water crises in Chile and deforestation in Mexico, and the product that has made Mexican drug cartels tens of millions of dollars in extortion money from farmers who just want to grow fruit. What if avocado had never existed? What if the humans who found it in those Mexican highlands had walked past and left it to disappear with the mammoths? The ghost of Megafauna. To understand the avocado, you have to understand the Pleistocene. Between approximately 2.5 million years ago and 10,000 years ago, the Americas were home to an extraordinary array of large animals, the megafauna of the Pleistocene epoch. Giant ground sloths stood 6 meters tall and weighed several tons. Glyptodonts, relatives of modern armadillos, were the size of small cars and were covered in bony armor. Gomphotheres were elephant-like creatures that roamed in herds across North and South America. American mastodons and woolly mammoths grazed the grasslands. American horses, American camels, short-faced bears twice the size of grizzlies. These animals shaped the plants they ate. Over millions of years of coevolution, plants developed fruits specifically designed to attract and be dispersed by megafauna. Large, nutritious fruits with big seeds that could survive the digestive systems of enormous animals. The avocado is a megafauna fruit, designed by evolution over millions of years for creatures that no longer exist. The biologist Daniel Jansen coined the term ecological anachronism for plants like the avocado, organisms whose evolutionary adaptations make sense only in reference to extinct partners. The Osage orange, the honey locust, the pawpaw, the avocado. These are fruits that evolved for Pleistocene megafauna and have been ecologically adrift since the extinctions. Without their dispersers, they can reproduce only in the immediate vicinity of the parent tree, which creates intense competition between parent and offspring for the same resources. Left entirely to nature, these plants would slowly decline and disappear. What saved the avocado was human appetite. Archaeological evidence shows avocado consumption in Mexico dating to at least 10,000 years ago, essentially the same period as the megafaunal extinctions. By 5,000 years ago, avocado was being cultivated in Mesoamerica. By 2,000 years ago, it was widely grown and traded across Mexico and Central America. The Aztec word for avocado was ahuacatl, which also meant testicle, a reference to the fruit's shape that the Spanish found amusing enough to record. The Spanish conquistadors encountered avocados in the markets of Tenochtitlan and sent samples back to Europe. Europe was largely indifferent. The avocado doesn't travel well. It ripens quickly and bruises easily, and its flavor, which depends significantly on its high fat content, was unfamiliar to palates calibrated for sweeter fruits. For several centuries, avocado remained essentially a regional product of tropical America, consumed locally and largely unknown elsewhere. The transformation that turned a regional Mexican fruit into a global industry happened in California in the 20th century through a combination of agricultural innovation, marketing genius, and one of the most successful rebranding campaigns in food history. California, Rudolph Hass, and the invention of guacamole. In 1926, a mail carrier named Rudolph Hass planted an avocado seedling in his backyard in La Habra Heights, California. He had bought the seed from a nursery. The tree that grew produced fruit unlike any avocado previously cultivated in California. Smaller, with a pebbly, dark skin that turned almost black when ripe, and flesh that was extraordinarily creamy and rich, with a nutty flavor that other varieties lacked. Hass tried to graft other varieties onto the tree to replace it with something more commercially familiar. The grafts failed. He decided to keep the tree and propagate it. In 1935, he patented the Hass avocado, the first patent ever granted for a tree, and began licensing propagation rights to California nurseries. Today, the Hass avocado accounts for approximately 80% of all avocados consumed worldwide. Every Hass avocado on Earth is a clone, a cutting from Hass's original tree or from trees descended from it. The entire global avocado industry, worth tens of billions of dollars annually, traces back to one backyard in California and one mail carrier who decided not to cut down a tree that was behaving strangely. But the Hass avocado alone couldn't create the industry. What was needed was a market, and creating that market required convincing Americans to eat something they associated with the unfamiliar. The California avocado industry did this through one of the most effective marketing campaigns in food history. In the 1980s, the industry spent millions promoting avocado as a versatile ingredient for American cuisine. Guacamole, a preparation with pre-Columbian origins in Mesoamerica, made from mashed avocado with lime, cilantro, and chili, was positioned as the perfect American party food. Super Bowl Sunday became the single largest guacamole consumption event in the United States. By the late 1980s, Super Bowl weekend accounted for more avocado consumption than the entire country had consumed in any given year a decade earlier. The other crucial marketing move was health. Avocados are high in fat, approximately 15 grams per fruit. In the low-fat era of the 1980s and 1990s, this was a marketing problem. The solution was to position avocado fat as good fat, monounsaturated, heart-healthy, the kind of fat that nutritionists recommend. This was scientifically accurate. It was also exactly the right message for a health-conscious market that was beginning to question the simplistic, low-fat dietary advice of the previous decade. The result was the avocado toast moment, the early 2000s phenomenon in which a slice of bread with mashed avocado became simultaneously the defining food of millennial urban culture and the subject of endless media commentary about generational wealth, housing affordability, and the economics of discretionary spending. The avocado toast discourse was, at its core, a conversation about class, about who could afford to eat well, what eating well meant, and whether the people who ate avocado toast understood the economic conditions of their own lives. The avocado had traveled from extinction by megafauna extinction through Aztec markets and Spanish indifference to California backyards and Super Bowl parties to become a cultural flashpoint. That journey took 10,000 years. The avocado's nutritional profile is genuinely unusual among fruits. Most fruits derive their caloric content almost entirely from sugars, the evolutionary strategy of making the fruit attractive to animals is to make it sweet. The avocado went in a different direction, likely because the megafauna it was designed for were less sensitive to sweetness and more responsive to caloric density. The result is a fruit that is approximately 15% fat by weight, the same fat content as whole milk, with almost no sugar. This makes it nutritionally more similar to an oily fish or a nut than to most fruits. The fat in avocado is predominantly oleic acid, the same monounsaturated fat that gives olive oil its health reputation. Research has consistently found associations between oleic acid consumption and reduced inflammation, improved cholesterol profiles, and lower cardiovascular disease risk. Avocados also contain more potassium per serving than bananas, a fact the avocado marketing industry has used extensively, along with folate, vitamins K and E, and a range of carotenoids that are particularly bioavailable because of the fat content that helps absorb them. The irony of the avocado's health status is that it became popular in the United States precisely as official dietary advice was shifting away from the low-fat orthodoxy that had dominated since the 1970s. The avocado arrived in mass culture at exactly the moment the culture was ready to accept a food that was high in fat but demonstrably healthy. The timing was not accidental. The California avocado industry had been making the health argument for years into a market that wasn't ready to hear it. By the time the market caught up with the science, the industry was positioned to benefit. The cartels and the green gold. In the Mexican state of Michoacan, which produces approximately 40% of Mexico's avocados and is the primary source of avocados consumed in the United States, the avocado industry has a problem that no amount of marketing can address. The cartels want their cut. The Caballeros Templarios and later the Jalisco Nueva Generación cartel recognized in the early 2000s that Michoacan's avocado industry, driven by the explosive growth of American demand, had become extremely lucrative. Avocado orchards in Michoacan can generate revenues of approximately $30,000 per hectare annually, far more than almost any other agricultural product the region can produce. The cartels began extorting farmers, demanding a percentage of revenue in exchange for not destroying crops, not kidnapping family members, not preventing harvests. The extortion became so severe that farmers in several Michoacan communities formed self-defense militias, civilian armed groups that operated outside the formal police and military structure to protect their orchards and families. The Mexican federal government, which had largely failed to control cartel activity in the region, eventually negotiated an uneasy accommodation between the militias and official security forces. The avocado orchards of Michoacan are now guarded by a patchwork of formal military, local police, and civilian self-defense forces, a security apparatus that exists specifically to protect the fruit that Americans put on toast. The U.S. government has intermittently suspended avocado inspections from Michoacan when its inspectors received threats, a practice that briefly interrupted the supply of avocados to the United States and caused brief spikes in avocado prices that generated significant media coverage. The connection between American avocado consumption and Mexican cartel revenue is not hypothetical. It is structural. This is not unique to avocados. Many agricultural products in regions with weak governance and high-value export crops are subject to similar dynamics. But the avocado case is particularly visible because the product is so identifiable and so closely associated with a specific cultural moment in American consumer culture. The people paying $18 for avocado toast in Brooklyn are participating at several removes in an economic system that funds organized crime in Mexico. The avocado supply chain is not a simple story of farmers selling fruit to distributors selling to stores. It is a complex ecosystem that includes, at various points, criminal organizations, militias, government corruption, and the fundamental economic reality that extremely lucrative agricultural products in poorly governed regions attract predatory actors. The water crisis. The avocado is a thirsty fruit. Producing 1 kilogram of avocados requires approximately 2,000 liters of water, more than wheat, more than rice, less than beef, but significantly more than most fruits and vegetables. In Mexico and California, where the climate is Mediterranean and rainfall is seasonal and often insufficient, avocado cultivation requires intensive irrigation. In the Petorca province of Chile, avocado cultivation has created a water crisis that has become one of the most discussed environmental conflicts in Latin America. Petorca is a semi-arid region that experienced a significant expansion of avocado cultivation in the 1990s and 2000s, driven by export demand from Europe and North America. Avocado orchards require year-round irrigation in a climate where natural rainfall is insufficient for months at a stretch. The result has been the systematic depletion of the rivers, streams, and aquifers that the region's population depends on for drinking water, livestock watering, and small-scale agriculture. Satellite images show the Petorca River running dry in sections where it flowed year-round a decade ago. Small farmers who cannot afford the deep wells and pumping systems that large avocado operations use have lost access to water entirely. Some rural communities in Petorca now receive water by truck. The legal and regulatory situation is complex. Chilean water rights law, inherited from the Pinochet era, treats water as private property that can be bought, sold, and concentrated in ways that most countries do not permit. Large agricultural operations have legally purchased water rights that previously sustained smaller users. The avocado industry operates within the law. The communities that have lost water access have also operated within the law. The law in this case was designed by a military dictatorship that prioritized large-scale economic development over community water security. Similar dynamics are playing out in other avocado-producing regions. In Mexico's Jalisco state, forest clearing for new avocado orchards has been documented by satellite imagery. In California, avocado growers have faced water allocation conflicts with urban users during drought years. The avocado's water requirements are not unusually high by agricultural standards, but its rapid geographic expansion into semi-arid regions has concentrated that water demand in places that cannot sustainably support it. Avocado today and tomorrow. The global avocado market is worth approximately $90 billion annually and continues to grow. Consumption in Europe has increased by over 400% in the past decade. China, a country with essentially no avocado tradition, has become one of the fastest-growing avocado markets in the world, driven by health messaging and the global spread of brunch culture through social media. The avocado supply chain faces several converging challenges. Climate change is altering the growing conditions in California and Mexico, the two largest sources of avocados for the American market. Water scarcity is increasing in the primary growing regions. Disease pressure, particularly from Phytophthora cinnamomi root rot, threatens orchards that have been planted at high density. And the Hass avocado's genetic uniformity, every fruit is a clone of Rudolph Hass's 1926 tree, makes the entire global supply vulnerable to a pathogen that overcomes its specific disease resistances. There is something almost poetic about this vulnerability. The avocado survived the extinction of its Megafauna dispersers because humans found it useful and cultivated it. The specific variety that now dominates global production owes its existence to one tree, one man, and one decision not to cut it down. The genetic bottleneck that makes the Hass avocado the most successful agricultural product of its generation is also the potential vulnerability that could end that success. Agricultural scientists are working on alternative varieties, avocados with different disease resistance profiles, different ripening rates, different flavor profiles that could diversify the genetic base of global avocado production. The work is slow. Avocado trees take 7 to 10 years to reach full production. Agricultural investment horizons are short. The industry has strong incentives to continue producing the variety that consumers recognize and pay premium prices for. The avocado that was saved from extinction 10,000 years ago by human appetite is now entirely dependent on human management systems for its survival. It cannot disperse its seeds without us. It cannot reliably reproduce in the wild. It is, in the most literal sense, a domesticated species, an organism that has co-evolved with human civilization to the point where neither can exist without the other. We saved the avocado. We are also the only thing standing between it and the extinction it escaped once before. Finale. A world without avocado. No guacamole. No avocado toast. No $18 brunch items that became the symbol of a generation's economic anxieties. No $90 billion global industry. No cartel extortion of Michoacan farmers. No water crisis in Petorca. No cleared forests in Jalisco. And also, one more plant extinct. One more evolutionary lineage ended not by the slow processes of natural selection, but by the sudden disappearance of the animals it had evolved over millions of years to depend on. The avocado joins the list of the Pleistocene's victims, the mastodons, the mammoths, the giant ground sloths, rather than the list of the survivors. One fruit, saved by the same species that probably drove its dispersers to extinction. But here is what the history of the avocado actually tells us, and it is something that none of the other foods in this series have told us in quite this way. Every food we have examined has been shaped by humans. But the avocado was shaped by humans in a more fundamental sense than any of them. We didn't just cultivate it, trade it, exploit it, or transform it. We saved it from biological extinction. Without us, it would not exist. And that creates a relationship unlike any other in this series. The avocado is not just a food that humans use. It is a species that exists because of humans, that owes its continued presence on Earth to our appetite and our agricultural choices. The extinct megafauna that used to eat it are gone. We are the replacement. We are the dispersers now. We took on the evolutionary role of creatures we helped to eliminate. We saved the avocado, and now we depend on it for $90 billion of economic activity. And it depends on us for continued existence. And somewhere in Michoacan, a farmer is paying a cartel a percentage of his avocado revenue, while his fruit gets shipped north to be mashed onto toast by people who have never heard of Phytophthora root rot or the Petorca River. The avocado should not exist. Neither, by some measures, should the world it has created. And yet, here we are, eating it.